What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on a post that I came across that was it was Jerry Krause, and this is something that he said about Michael Jordan. And I want to I want to respond to this, but Jerry Krause's quote was, "He never came to me and asked me for other players to draft the player. Part of it was he thought he was so good he could win without him." And I think that statement right there speaks a lot about Michael Jordan and how he was throughout his career. Like, it speaks to Michael Jordan's greatness. You think about when Michael Jordan first hit the league, right? When he first came to Chicago, he didn't he didn't do it at the beginning. His main focus was to prove that he could play in this league, in the NBA, and he could compete. And so Mike hit the ground running, immediately. Mike just he was known for being a somebody who could put up a lot of points, um, very competitive, and he just made do with the teammates that he had. He wasn't at the beginning. He wasn't trying to make no waves. He just wanted to solidify himself and just let the league know that he was there. I think right away his teammates noticed that. They knew right off the bat that Mike was the real deal, and so it was it was Mike team from the very beginning. So like I said in the beginning, Mike, just wanted to prove himself. So later on, once the Chicago Bulls got Scottie Pippen, you know, uh, Mike had Scottie. That it definitely was Mike's team after that. And Mike just made Scottie step his game up basically. And raised his level along with Scottie Pippen's level of play so they could be successful. But so if Jerry Krause says that he never asked to draft anybody, and he never wanted to go after people for a trade, that just goes to speak to like how confident Mike was, that Mike probably thought he could win with anybody. So whoever Krause and I forgot the owner name, but whoever these guys was who made the choice, whatever ingredients they put around Mike, that's what Mike cooked with. So that statement right there makes me think that no matter who uh the Bulls would have drafted to put around Mike, Mike would have made it work. Mike would have eventually got them to a championship. It was, it was all about more so Mike raising his level and Mike learning how to play, because Mike learned how to use his teammates. It like when Mike first hit the league, Mike was scoring out of, he was just giving people 63 pieces and 50 pieces and 45. Man, he was just scoring at a high clip. But Mike realized that scoring wasn't going to win them a championship. He needed help. His scoring wasn't going to do it. They needed help. And so um Mike got better at using and learning how to use the pieces around him, which I think I don't know if Mike really get enough credit for that. Knowing how to use the pieces around him and have these guys to maximize their potential. Mike was a guy that was very demanding of his teammates, but like he said himself, he didn't do anything or ask them to do anything that he wouldn't do. So that's why it's easy to see that when Jerry Krause said that Mike never asked for nobody or wanted to draft anybody, because he just had that type of confidence and he knew that he could do what he could whatever they brought to the team, that's what Mike was going to cook with. I remember hearing a story from what was the guy, George Lynch. George Lynch used to play at North Carolina, and then he went to the Sixers in the NBA. But when George Lynch said that when he was at North Carolina, and Michael Jordan used to come down there, used to come to North Carolina and play games. They used to play pickup basketball in the summertime. And Michael Jordan would always put on his team the guys, the bench riders and the guys who walked on, or not bench riders, but guys who were walk-ons. He would put them on his team, and he would put guys who were like on a junior varsity team for North Carolina. And Mike would beat the North Carolina starters with walk-ons, and so that just goes to show that how competitive Mike was. Um, when you can go and beat, and I mean, when North Carolina have always had guys who you know what I mean, guys who could play at the next level. And so Mike will go down there and pick guys who probably wouldn't even get an opportunity to go to the next level, walk-ons and guys who played on the junior varsity team, and Mike would beat those guys. So that just goes to show like how competitive Mike was all throughout his career. And that's something, like a story like that is something you really don't hear about a lot of people. Like when it seems like most competitors, they want to put together a good team, you know. But he was a different kind of competitor. Mike wanted to dominate, put himself in a position that would challenge him. He would have to uplift his teammates and win with those guys, and that's what made, Mike different, and so now when you look at like the later years in Mike's career, like when Mike went to the Wizards, and he had guys like, he didn't have a lot of talent on that team. He had guys like Jahadi White, was Juan Dixon there? I think Juan Dixon was there. Tyronn Lue was there. Um, who else he had? He did have Rip Hamilton, Rip Hamilton was a good basketball player. But Christian Laettner, like they didn't have like a very good team. And Mike still was able to turn them into a winner and even get them. I think he got them into the playoffs one of those years, or did he? I don't know, maybe not. But Mike still was able to win. Turn the Wizards into a little bit better than a 500 team as a player. In his later years, Mike had a winning record in DC, and so Mike, even in Washington, later on in his career, this statement that Jerry Krause made still holds true, because Mike chose those guys, or basically most of those guys probably was already on the team when Mike got there. And so I do remember Michael Jordan, while he was there, he drafted Kwame Brown, you know. But yeah, Mike just, was a different kind of dude. He was a different kind of dude, man. And that's part of what made him great, though. When you have a guy who just he let general managers and coaches and the other guys, he just let them do their job. He wasn't somebody who was going, like, get me this person or get me that person. Or, Mike just, whatever you brought to the table, whatever ingredients you brought to the table, that's what Mike cook with. And so yeah, man, I just think that, Mike, and you can tell, throughout, his whole career, like I said, from when he was a rookie, he didn't make any demands on a team. And when he was when he took over the team, he didn't go up to the front office and try to, demand that the general manager get him certain players or get him some help. And so that's just how, like I said, that's just the way Mike was. Mike was that dude, man. When it came to that, Mike challenged himself. So much so that when he went to North Carolina, man, he, again, he playing with guys who walk ons and pick up and stuff like that. That's that's crazy. Uh, it just speaks to his competitiveness. And, I can even recall other players, threatening to leave a team when, they don't have enough help. Kobe did it. Um, LeBron actually left. Who else? Kevin Durant left. Players are more likely to follow that route than to leave a team than to something going on. Okay, there go my camera. Yeah, to leave a team than to just cook with the what they get from the general managers. I think that speaks to his greatness. And so that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. And with that being said, also don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.